Hello and welcome. Today we're in the Tier 8 French cruiser, the Bayard. And she is finally released, which means that she's probably not getting changed too much anymore in the future, except if IFHE changes. But basically the ship is Cleveland, but better. Although she doesn't have radar, so I guess you could consider that to be a trade-off, because, hey, there are certain situations where radar will be more important than basically all the other things that the ship brings. In most aspects, though, the ship is just slightly better than the Cleveland. You trade out the radar for a speed boost and a reload booster, and I think that's a worthy trade. You'll see this on this engagement with the Tashkent. Reload booster up, 5k on the first salvo, 3k on the second one, another 4k. Didn't see how much damage that one was, but... And that's the Tashkent gone, although I did get some help. But I did 13,000 damage to her at a decent range. Now, I was really surprised by this engagement myself, because even in a Cleveland it would have been kinda rare for me to hit that many shells on the Tashkent. But it's clearly possible, and because the shell characteristics and DPM on the ship are basically the same as the Cleveland, except when you use reload booster you deal twice the DPM. So in a Cleveland I would have still done like 6-7k to that Tashkent, but we probably wouldn't have been able to sink her. But this is one advantage the Bayard has over the Cleveland. And she also has torpedoes, which the Cleveland doesn't have. They are 9km range. They aren't that special. The anti-air on the ship is also pretty good. Not as good as the Cleveland's, but it's good enough, I think. And in other aspects, she is just slightly better than a Cleveland, I think. Kind of really made me wonder, because oh, and she has divided by 5 penetration, so without IFHE she has 29mm of pen, with IFHE she has 38, which is actually a significant advantage over the Cleveland. I'm guessing that the Bayard was the initial test for the IFHE changes, where they basically wanted to see if the divided by 5 penetration would work. And I suppose it depends on what the IFHE changes are going to be eventually, whether this will work out or not. I'm gonna take a salvo on the gearing, but it's probably not gonna work out too well. And I'm gonna continue shelling the Bismarck. Now the speed boost is very nice because it means you can engage stuff in open water. Honestly, I think this ship is... maybe comparing her to the Cleveland is kind of wrong, because for all the problems that Cleveland might have compared to this ship, where she doesn't have quite as much speed, etc., the thing is that radar is just that important that it might still be worth it to go for Cleveland because of the radar. Of course, the radar isn't that amazing on American light cruisers, but it's still pretty good. But I think a better comparison for this ship is to say that this is the new Kutuzov. Sure, you don't have a smokescreen to sit in, but you have a speed boost to run around in at long range, which means that you can shell rather well. Basically, she is in my opinion, the new Tier 8 Premium cruiser that deals a whole lot of damage and does it rather well. I mean, it's 5 minutes into the game, I've done 41k damage, I have actually sunk a DD. I would say that we're in a pretty good position already. Oh, and I've barely taken any damage, although I suppose there weren't that many enemies that shot at me. Also, keep in mind that this is a tier 10 game, so I am not exactly top tier. But I would say that if there's any cruiser I would like to be in, to be bottom tier in a game, I think this is it. Because this ship, well, I would definitely pick the Henri over playing this ship in a tier 10 match. I think she's good enough to at least engage rather well against a whole bunch of the ships, especially battleships, because it doesn't really matter if you're a Bayard or a Des Moines or some cruiser like that. you're still gonna roughly perform about the same against battleships like Yamato or Sovietsky Soyuz or ships like that. Okay, so we're gonna go closer now and try to find some islands, because if I could engage this Yamato it would be great, but I would really like to be near islands, because even though speed boost is nice, it's not guaranteed to be able to dodge, and islands give me a lot more safety, in my opinion anyway. So using islands to shell battleships from behind them is still the go-to strategy, I think. Oh, and one other thing, the ship has more range than the Cleveland for some reason, which I don't really understand. I suppose she is squishier in a sense, in that her overall armor, I would say, isn't as great as Cleveland, but her side and deck is 30mm for some reason, which... Actually, I don't know if both of them are. One of them is definitely, which basically makes her better than a Cleveland in some sense, so I would say that her armor is actually about the same. But it seems that we're, while we don't have the points, we do have the ship's advantage, which should snowball towards our advantage. I can't shoot anything at the moment anymore, so I'll have to get closer. One thing that I would recommend to do on French cruisers is not to go too close too early. Let the battleships tank for a while, because if you as a cruiser start trying to tank early, you're just gonna go down very quickly. If you can survive for a long time though, then you can deal the damage and you can just tank later, right? I mean, battleships can do the same thing, but let's be honest, cruisers tend to have better DPM than battleships, so it's usually preferred if the cruisers don't go down too early. Oh, and cruisers aren't that great at tanking anyway, compared to battleships, so there's quite an incentive for a cruiser not to want to tank. Okay, the Alaska is shelling the Monarch. I'd like to go full speed forward, start shelling the Alaska and use speed boost, but not sure how good of an idea this is. I might run into the Monarch, which would be very unfortunate. By the way, pro tip, at least according to Little White Mouse, the smallest area of a turn is when you're going between 15 and 20 knots. But if you want to complete your turn in the least amount of time, then you should go full speed. Right now I'm kind of playing like you would an Henri, in that I'm pointing my nose away from the ships, and I'm playing with my throttle, going full speed, slowing down, etc. Just like you would on an Henri, because I have speed boost active, which makes my acceleration really quick. And I think this Alaska is paying the price for doing what she did. The DPM on a ship like this is good enough that Alaska is gonna really regret pushing out there. Also, another thing is that she's not actually shooting me. In fact, even if she were shooting me, she's shooting HE. So that wouldn't even be that dangerous for me. I expect her to start aiming at me at some point. I'm being targeted by 3 ships, so somebody must be aiming at me. But for some reason the Alaska hasn't been shooting me, so I'm not sure. Oh, I think she finally aimed at me. Kinda late for that though, Alaska. Should have done it like 2 minutes ago. Maybe you might have been able to survive by forcing me to stop shooting you, but now it's a bit late. Oh! The Charles Martel decided to join the Alaska. Okay, I'll take it. I will very much take it, as long as the Yamato doesn't delete me. Yamato, please don't delete me. Oh, in other news, Hayate videos should be out tomorrow. I wanted it to be today, but I just couldn't make it. Because I kept rambling on and on about slightly irrelevant things. Actually, you know what? This Charles Martel did well in that She actually didn't end up taking too much damage from me. Well, so far anyway. Also, I kind of find it hard to believe that the Charles Martel and the Bayard are the same tier. Honestly, it feels like the Bayard should be tier 9. Or maybe tier 8.75 or something like that. Whatever that would mean, right? But basically, she feels a bit strong for a tier 8 ship. She is squishy, of course, but her damage output and the usefulness of reload booster, you can swap your defensive fire for Hydra as well if you wish. And the speed boost make her really good, especially since she has basically the same stats as a Cleveland, except just slightly better in a lot of ways. Hey, we should be able to sink that Yamato. She has 11k HP. I'm gonna even use reload booster for this. One thing that's really nice on the French cruisers is that you kinda need to figure out how to use your reload booster. Like, when does it make sense to do so? And I think there can be a lot of skill involved in figuring out when it is the best time to use it. Obviously, if you're in a close range fight with basically anything, it's a good idea, but at longer ranges, you know, you can do strategies like you set the ship on fire, they use damage control card, you use reload booster to set them on fire again, stuff like that. Or if somebody shows you broadside, like right now. Reload booster would be very useful at the moment. But alas, I don't have it. Because I used it on the Yamato, which I was unable to sink. Wow, look at that dispersion, Jesus! That was some good dispersion. But because she turned away, I can just HE her for the rest of it. I'm really surprised by how much I've been left alone this game, though. Oh wow, and now Gearing is coming out to donate her ship to me. That's very generous of them, except I'm behind an island now, which is unfortunate. Oh, I think we finally will get the Yamato at least, so there's one threat off our backs. And there she goes. They have held the caps advantage, so I think I do need to go into the B caps, or sorry, C cap soon. And I suppose take care of the Gearing and or the Minotaur. Sovetski Soyuz is gonna be slightly more difficult, but hopefully... Oh, never mind. The Vladivostok deleted her instead. I don't want to go through here, right there, because I think the Gearing might anticipate it. Plus, I don't know where exactly the Minotaur is. Because if I get suddenly surprised by a Minotaur, I'm gonna have a bad time, I think. Never mind, there is no Minotaur anymore. But I've already committed to my turn. I can't exactly turn around and go through that gap anymore, like you could in basically any other game. Which is something I love about World of Warships. But we should take the caps advantage soon enough. Hydra would be very nice though right now. Because I could tell whether the Gearing is in that smoke or whether she's torpedoing or all of that. Luckily she doesn't have RPF. If she had RPF, this would be an even scarier situation because she could potentially know that I'm closing in on her. But right now, she is as blind as I am. I'm gonna enter the smoke, but it seems that the Gearing is not in here, so I guess I'll go into the cap. Especially since I have a battleship with me, it should be okay. It's a 4 against 3, and they do have almost 200 points on us, so it's entirely possible to still lose this game. But I think, as long as we take this cap, it'll be okay. Unless the Akizuki like sinks the Monarch and then takes B or something. But I think we'll be okay on that front. Also, there could be Gearing torpedoes coming in at any moment. But the surprising thing is that I haven't been spotted by the Gearing, so I don't really know what she's doing. Which means that she is in one of my blind spots. As a result, I think sitting where I am right now could be rather safe. Okay, I'm spotted, so Gearing finally appeared. Wait, she actually opened fire? I don't think that was a good idea, Gearing. Because I do have reload booster and you're at 7 kilometers. I do need to move forward after this, but honestly, yeah, Gering, that was a bad idea, because you're gonna go down. Goodbye. And that also gave away the information that Gering had fired her torpedoes, or where they would come from, so it'll be fine. I guess I won't be interacting with the Sea Cap. Also, the Rakizuki went down, so this game is now in the bag, I think. 3 minutes to go, and it's 1 Henri. How many ships would you have to sink to win? I think like 2? Actually, I think this Jean Bart is pretty dead, so it'll only be 1 ship. Maybe actually 2 to still win. I guess it's just 1 ship to threaten victory. I would say that Henri on the enemy team has played rather well. I mean, he has been all over the place in terms of where she has been on the map, which is exactly what you want from an Henri. Because she has been very annoying, and I think she is going to take our battleship down. Well, not the Monarch. 2000 HP to go, and she is taking down, so yeah, that's pretty guaranteed. And there she goes. They do have a points lead again, but there's still 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. I think our only real chance of losing at this point is if we feed all 3 ships to her. Which I think is kinda impossible, because we just have so much more firepower. 3 ships just beats a single ship, even if the single ship would be super overpowered. Which, I don't think the Henri is super overpowered. In fact, in that sense, I don't think any ship in World of Warships kind of fits that kind of bill. I don't think there's any ship that can just take on multiple ships at the same time, where the players are about equal skill. I mean, okay, except maybe destroyers and CVs. But that happens not because the ship is so powerful, necessarily, it's more the gameplay interaction, you know. Hidden torpedoes and planes kind of make it possible to engage multiple ships without being damaged in return, but something like a cruiser or battleship, well, I suppose a battleship at long range could do the same thing as a CV, right? If you outrange your enemy and constantly retreat, it's possible. But the Henri is pretty much gone now. She did fire AP, which could sink me actually. Ouch, that hurt. But she is also gone, so worth it. See, pretty good game. Or at least a decent game. 120k damage. Even got settled. Sank 3 ships. 2372 base XP in a tier 10 game. I very much appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, wow. Number 2 is actually also a tier 8 ship. A Monarch. With another 3 kills. Damn. Tier 8s represent, huh? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, One-Eyed Potato, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.